thank you for everyone that is here today to promote our schools. We give thanks for all the blessings and the wonderful events that shape our students and our staff. Help us work together to better our community. Guide us with great ideas and innovative ways to benefit us all. Grant us understanding and wisdom, and help us accept each other and all that we have to offer. Bless our children, our teachers, and everyone that lends a helping hand to offer a safe learning environment. We ask all these things in your name. Amen. Ms. Helms, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to get the meeting started, it's great to see a lot of people here tonight, a big crowd, and so anytime that anyone speaks, since we are being broadcast now, we ask that you come to the microphone up front so everyone can hear you clearly, and so if you are asked to speak, please step to the front. And the first item is public comment, and we have one person that's requested to speak. Kara Morgan, would you like to stand up, Ms. Morgan, and come up to the front and state your name, and you're going to speak on action item number 1, the director's contract. Okay?
My name is Kara Morgan. My address is 1039 Winchester Highway, Hillsborough, Tennessee, and I am speaking on Dr. Lawson's contract. Good afternoon. My name is Kara Morgan, and I'm the secretary bookkeeper at Deerfield Elementary School. Today, I want to bring to your attention the topic of the renewal of Dr. Lawson's contract. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend the last board meeting when this was discussed. However, I did watch it online, and there were a few things that I would like to speak on in support of Dr. Lawson. First, I would like to discuss the work that Dr. Lawson has put into accommodating the need for more suitable incomes for each of his employees. I began working for the Coffee County school system in 2020, making this my 4th year with the county. Within these 3 years, my pay has increased by $4.13 an hour. Not only does this allow for a more comfortable living situation, but it also makes me feel appreciated for the work that I do each year. I say that knowing that I'm not the only one that feels this way, seeing as Dr. Lawson has also worked towards creating a more balanced pay scale for everyone. Every position is underpaid, including Dr. Lawson, but he has made it his mission to improve every position's salary within the past few years, all while being completely transparent throughout the process. I feel that this is important to mention because financial compensation is one of the top reasons of a high turnover rate in any school system. Next, I would like to discuss the idea of support. Within the school system, there are different branches of support. For example, a teacher and a principal. When a principal performs an evaluation and notices or makes mention of an area that the teacher may be weaker in, the principal should not simply point out that mistake without offering support on how to fix it. If they did, no professional would want to work in that kind of environment. Another leading reason of a high turnover rate is the lack of support. If a principal can make a teacher feel this way, our board members, as the employer of our superintendent, may need to recognize that the lack of support could cause the same feeling to occur in his position. Regardless of position or authority, any work environment will work more efficiently when the area of support is strengthened. To go along with this topic, I would like to entertain the idea of consistency. It is a known fact that the stability in school leadership can play a huge role in the turnover rate of school employees, specifically teachers, and our district should be focused on encouraging new teachers to work for Coffee County schools. In my opinion, as someone who is about to be a new teacher, a school district that has a consistent and efficient superintendent would be a top contender as far as choosing where I spend the entirety of my career. Any goals that are set for the superintendent to accomplish within his or her contract would be more likely to be achieved when the idea of consistency is involved, specifically time to achieve said goals. Which leads me to my next thought of how I was disappointed with the fact that Dr. Lawson was essentially accused of not having any goals set in place but yet no one could provide any specific reason that implied otherwise. I feel that this miscommunication can be misleading and degrading towards the work that he has put into bettering our school system, especially when we were talking about the compensation of his employees. I would also like to mention that Manchester City Schools voted to extend the contract of their director for another 2 years. Finishing up, I would like to reiterate that Dr. Lawson has worked hard for our community and school system for the past 4 years, and I think that it would be a mistake to disregard that while voting to renew his contract. I think that if our school system needs to work on anything, it needs to be focused on supporting every staff member and not just pointing out the problems, but instead working together to offer solutions. I would like to ask each of you to kindly reconsider the vote of the renewal of Dr. Lawson's contract and think about the benefits that offering consistency can provide to our district. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, on our agenda, we do need to add item number 11 because we need some clarification on the CTE building. So we're going to add motion to reconsider the CTE project.
So moved.
Well, we're just going to put it on the agenda right now, and we'll get a motion. But we're going to add that as item number 11. Okay? So at this time, I would like to open up to get a motion to accept the agenda with that addition and also pass the general consent items at the same time.
So moved.
We've got Mr. Crabtree,
Second.
Ms. Rose. Any questions on those? Hearing none, we're going to vote to approve the agenda and the general consent items. Let's start with Miss Jennifer tonight.
Aye.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Chair votes aye. That passes 9-0. Okay, so we have 11 action items. Action item number 1, the director's contract.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I requested this to be put on the agenda this time. After our last effort to approve a new contract for Dr. Lawson, I was inundated with calls from people who work within the district and parents of students within the district expressing their displeasure at our failing to renew the contract. At the point in time I requested this last month, I already had over 50 emails, text messages, and some personal contacts. Since then, if I count the one very well spoken tonight, I now have 26 more that have added their displeasure to this and want to see this contract renewed. So therefore, I am moving that we approve a 4-year contract for Dr. Lawson as stated in the attachments that we have for this meeting at this time.
Second.
We have all right, Mr. Crabtree made the motion. Ms. Rose made the second. Okay, so we've had a motion and a second. I've also had a request at this point, so now it's an active item. Our student ambassadors wanted to, as part of the board, wanted to address the board on this item, and so I told them I'd let them do that before we started our discussion. So, young ladies, whichever one wants to go first. Ms. Helms, looks like it might be you.
Hello. Sorry. Hello.
Although we are just 2 students out of thousands at the school, we would like to speak on behalf of Dr. Lawson today. Being involved in the school system through many outlets, we are able to appreciate what Dr. Lawson has done for us students and for the staff. We are truly grateful for him voting for the safety of our school through the fire alarm and through the window tint. As students, it is the biggest thing, in my opinion, of school is our safety and our education. So bettering our safety with the fire alarm and window tint is something that I have seen just in the past 2 meetings that I've been attending that he has done to better our school system. And also, the pay raising for the teachers and the staff helps to maintain the quality of our school and help us have better teaching and better quality for everyone all around.
As Ella said, me and her are just 2 of thousands of students, but as a student athlete and just a student in general, I see Dr. Lawson at so many school events and so many things that he probably doesn't have to be at. And as students, we just really appreciate his presence in so much of the stuff that goes on. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. We appreciate your comments, and you are always welcome to speak at our meetings, and so just don't let me overlook you if you need to speak. Let's make sure we understand this motion before we get started on it. So we've made a motion to
approve the contract.
as
it is presented in our elements for this meeting that we have before us.
Okay, so it would be 4 years from this past July, is that correct? The way that it would.
That's correct.
From the past, so we would be basically giving him 2 more years than he's already under contract for.
Yes.
Okay? All right. That's correct? Is that the way you understand it, Dr. Lawson? Or?
That is correct. Basically, the first 2 years of this contract as written would replace the final 2 years of my existing contract.
Okay.
And then there would be obviously 2 more years placed on the back end of that.
Okay. So this time, I'll open up for questions for Dr. Lawson. Dr. Lawson, do you want to make any comments before we get started on this?
No, sir. I don't think I have anything in particular. I provided an email with an attachment to the board, both prior to the July meeting and prior to this meeting. It states what I feel like I have done to the benefit of the district, and the board has to decide whether they want me to continue in that role beyond the 2 years on my existing contract.
So at this time, I'll open up the floor. If anyone would like to, has particular questions or would like to speak, or wants any,
I'll speak.
go right ahead, Miss Rose, you got the floor.
For those of you who don't know, I probably have a more unique relationship with Charles Lawson than anyone else does in this room. I was an assistant principal at Tullahoma High School when he was hired via a phone interview while he was still in Alaska to come and teach biology on the 9th grade level for us in what was at that time our brand new 9th grade academy that was first year for High School 101, I believe, was it not, Dr. Lawson?
It was the first year, yes.
He was there on the ground floor when we took on that challenge to establish that at Tullahoma High School. Later, I had the privilege of working with him as a peer when he was promoted to Dean of Men's position at the high school. We were in constant contact all day long, conferring with one another. When an issue would arise, he would want to look at it from every angle with the thought, are we doing what's in the best interest for the child in here? That was always at the front of his mind on anything we did. Later, I became principal. He remained the assistant there. So once again, I supervised him. I relied very heavily on his expertise and his very unique way of looking at things. If I wanted an out-of-the-box opinion on things, Dr. Lawson is the man that I would go to and talk things out. Never once was he backward about telling me when he didn't agree with me. And I loved that because I didn't want a yes man in there. I wanted somebody who was going to fill in the gaps on where my weaknesses were. And he did that. Later, I worked with him again as a peer when he was the principal of East Middle School. And I will go ahead and tell you right now, I believe Charles Lawson could have gone farther in Tullahoma City Schools, but when he was approached with the proposition, would you be willing to move to Tullahoma, it was, I'm sorry, that's a deal breaker. I live in Coffee County. The loyalty that he has shown to this school system while his children were here, and believe me, I tried to steal his kids away on many different occasions. The loyalty that he showed to this school district, I believe, was absolutely admirable. He's a guy I want in my corner at a bad time. I wrote a letter of recommendation for Dr. Lawson when he applied for this job, and some of you on the board may have read it, but I'll go back and tell that story again. When the zombie apocalypse comes, I will pick up my backpack, my shotgun, and my dog, and I will head for Hillsboro, because Charles Lawson will see to it that his people are going to make it. And if I can get over there, he'll see to it that I make it also. And I give him my unconditional support in this position. I think Coffee County is very fortunate to have him at our helm. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rose.
I told myself I wasn't, I'm probably not in the shape tonight to really talk about a lot, but I see things a whole lot differently. I've been here, 1, 2, 3 of us, I think, have been here, maybe 4, quite a while now. I see time and time, I see the first time in the first year that I was on this board that this board spoke up and wanted to know how and a way to pay teachers more. I seen this board sit here the next year, regardless if anybody felt like they wanted to go to the county because it was going to cost more money. We wanted teachers to have more money. I seen a whole group effort. I want to thank the board for decisions that they've made, past members, present members. I want to thank everybody for what we've done and those accomplishments, and sending people back to their office to get those answers to make things happen. I want the teachers to understand that this board is what has made these pay increases happen, and everyone, and it's always been a unanimous decision to make sure the teachers are took care of, then to make sure our kids have everything. And I'm not saying Mr. Lawson does not care about our children and does not care about our teachers. I'm not saying that by no means. I'm saying let's look at the truth of actual accomplishments and what level and who accomplished what and who pushed what. You know, I go through and I read what was on Thunder Radio. I read things that are sent to me of accomplishments and things, and number one I like to go, or I go to on me, is athletics. I'm not even going to get into that. If it wasn't for the sheer determination and heartfelt drive of our parents, our students, our coaches, we wouldn't have athletics. We wouldn't have many of these things in here had it not been board action to push year after year. 2 years, we get this finally, we get this finally, we get this finally, we get this finally, we get through. I want to thank everyone for finally making stuff happen. Granted, COVID, we're going to go back to COVID, got us through. got us through. We all, from citizens in the community to janitors to teachers to students to administrators to board members. That wasn't easy on anyone. I like to think about all of our students. I like to look at the success of all of our students. I don't want to just concentrate and see slideshows on our top 20%. I want to see what's happening with our kids that are below expectation or coming up. I want to see if they're getting moved up, if they're getting better, if we're focusing there. I want to see things like that. I want to see complete budgets. I don't want to find out 3 years later that we had another $7 million we didn't know that we had. I mean, I want to be on the right path. I think it's there. I'm not going to. Do I think we need a new director in Coffee County Schools? No, I do not. But I think there is plenty of time to make for certain. I don't think now is the time to rush to this.
Thank you, Mr. Gilly.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Crabtree, go ahead.
I would like to amend one point that's brought up, because I work directly with Dr. Lawson on the pay scales for the employees in the district office and the pay scales for the teachers. Yes, the board voted to do it. We would have never even thought about doing it had not Dr. Lawson worked his tail off to get those numbers to where they were the right numbers for teachers now. And with a system that allows the numbers to grow and update at a proper steady pace for years to come. He fixed the pay scales for both county school board employees and for teachers. He's the one who brought it before us. Yes, we voted it in, but we'd have never done it had he not brought it to us first.
How many times did we sit here back then, us four, because we were on the board then? How many times did we sit here and go, we don't care if the county might not like us having a budget increase? We don't care. Call us, we'll go with you. Call us, we'll go with you. Go do it. And I'm not going to say that Mr. Lawson didn't feel that didn't need to happen. I'm just saying, don't paint this glorious picture when it's not there. But I'm done.
Mr. Cordell, would you like to say anything? Wouldn't? Mr. Ballard then. We'll go down to the
Yeah, and in sections 2 and last time I went through a bunch of things in here where we went through in detail, so I'm not going to rehash those, but in sections 2 and 14 there are repeated references to annual performance agreement, which is incorporated in this contract by reference as it fully stated herein. And I have never seen a copy of this annual performance agreement. So so if this is mentioned in multiple places in this contract, we kind of have an incomplete contract here, as far as I can tell. And I don't know what that is. I've never been provided that. I've never seen that. So what is that?
As far as the annual performance agreement, that has been mentioned before, and if you recall, we have talked there. That does not exist. It has not existed since even when I received my original contract. But there have been discussions at work sessions and committee and that kind of thing about once, and Ms. Rose is leading the 5-year plan. Once that is established, as far as development of the 5-year plan, then it would lead to the annual performance agreement. And that was discussed briefly in committee when we were talking about this contract. But that is my understanding. It is something that has not existed from my first day. If you say you've not seen it, I haven't either. That is an annual performance agreement. That would be board developed as far as what they believe that my annual performance should be, and that has not moved forward. Now, I do agree with the discussion that occurred in committee that if there's going to be one formed, because it is in the contract, that the natural point for that performance agreement would be after the full development of the 5-year plan that the board is currently developing.
So, I mean, but the way I read this is we're being asked to vote on something that incorporates a document that does not exist.
Right now, that is true. And if you consider it is in progress, considering that we are waiting for the 5-year plan. And so, but yes, that is, you are facing the same decision that the board has faced 2 times before, where it talks about an annual performance agreement and it has not existed.
Mr. Parsley?
No, sir.
Ms. Jones?
I just have one question. Isn't the 5-year plan part of your job description?
Yes, ma'am. We passed a 5-year plan earlier this,
Is that part of your job description, yes or no?
yes.
Who
And
is
that's what-
developing it?
Now,
Ms. Rose?
the 5-year plan that I put together and put before the board voted to approve that contingent upon meeting to further the development with Ms. Rose. So the 5-year plan that I put before the board, that I had put before teachers, that I had put before principals, supervisors, and had put before a panel of parents that the principals had advised that I contact, I put that before the board. And so I did develop that. That has been approved, but it was contingent upon further development of one more goal-oriented, and this was voted in a meeting earlier this year.
That was not a 5-year plan that you brought before the board.
Ma'am, it was,
And
I understand.
my point is, that is not the board's place to develop the plan for the system. That should be incorporated with everyone in this system. And it should come from the direction of the central office, not from one particular board member. Granted, we need to be a part of it, but we should not be the ones that's doing it. These people out here should be the part of it.
And ma'am, I just explained in prior meetings and work sessions when we discussed it earlier in 2023, I did detail all the steps I had taken, and the board still wanted to approve it contingent upon the development that we are currently in. This was,
And who is developing it now?
the board is as requested.
As requested. Who requested that?
The board did.
We voted to do it ourselves?
You
Well,
voted.
what kind of plan is that if the school board just does the
I
plan?
Excuse me, could I address that? Because I was
Yes, you
involved.
may.
I was involved in this. It's not the idea that we are all going to sit around and we're going to come up with a plan and it's going to impact all these people's lives. But we have to start. It's a starting point. We have to look at
It is not our responsibility to start the plan.
it has to start somewhere.
Well, and that's the director's responsibility. People that work underneath you.
And they'll do some work before it's all over with. But I think as a board,
But I have never seen anybody, one board member, take on the job of a 5-year plan for a school system.
oh, I hate to tell you, I'm not going to do a 5-year school system plan. That's not my plan at all. My plan was to
Dr. Lawson
facilitate.
just said you were.
Don't hold me to it, but I think it's law that that's on the director. His 5-year plan to present to the board, and annually, that is part of
It
his
is,
annual
that's-
performance evaluation, is seeing if he actually followed through with the plan, if we liked his plan. and that should have came probably back when he was hired, because that would have been part of his resume where he would like to take Coffee County schools back then when he was hired, and they probably liked it and so forth. But I wasn't here then. Don't know that.
There was an existing 5-year plan when I came in. What I did was I took that 5-year plan that had been voted on by the previous board and approved unanimously. Everybody approved the prior 5-year plan. So I went with that as my template. And then after reviewing it was, again, supervisors, principals, teachers, and a group of parents that had a chance to review it and look it over. I brought it to the board. Now, I had done everything that was needed. And again, like I said, every board member voted for that almost the same type format 5 years prior. So I went with what had passed previously. In the discussion of that 5-year plan, this board, which changes over time, was not satisfied with that particular format. So they approved the 5-year plan as it was written to satisfy state requirements, contingent upon meeting and gathering to develop a new one. And so we are simply following what was passed at a board meeting earlier in 2023. And that's where we are. Ms. Rose volunteered to step up and lead the process. She is not writing the plan. She is leading the process for the board to develop what their vision is as far as a 5-year plan. And that's how we got here. This was not me going to Ms. Rose and saying, hey, can you take this off my plate? That did not happen, and it would not happen. All I'm saying is there was a 5-year plan. It was approved, but the board specifically wanted something different. And that's the process we are in right now, is to figure out what's different.
Dr. Lawson, I remember in the meeting you saying that you did not know how to develop a 5-year plan.
I said, I don't know how to develop what you are asking for. And and Ms. Rose, again, she has developed a process by which the board can develop what they're asking for. That's what I said. I had already developed a 5-year plan. It was the board that elected to approve that one contingent upon the development of something further.
Okay. Anything else, Ms. Jones?
No.
I'm concerned with the 5-year plan. I always like to look forward, but right now I think I'm really looking at what are we giving our teachers, what are we giving our students, what are we giving our community? And that's what I want to look at, not what somebody can tell me that they're going to do in 5 years. What are they doing right now? Okay? So in my mind, that's much more important. We're talking about giving a 2-year extension of his contract, basically. Okay? And honestly, I thought Dr. Lawson's been underpaid when he began, when we look at other directors. Dr. Lawson, if you had stayed at Tullahoma and remained principal, would you be making significantly less money than you were making as a director here?
I would not. Had I applied for Tullahoma High School and received that position, I would actually be making more money as a Tullahoma High School principal than I am as Coffee County director.
And you may.
I did not apply for that job and that kind of thing. I want to clarify that, but I would currently be making more money as Tullahoma High School principal than as Coffee County Schools director.
And he's really, the way I understand this is the money is not the significant thing to him. He wanted 2 additional years to finish all our ESSER programs, to get some updates in the schools, to continue to do the things that he had been working on, the pay scales. After the last meeting, I went to the school kicked off, and I went into the schools, and I was bombarded by people that worked at the schools, and their reaction was, what the heck were y'all thinking? And I said, well, I don't know. I think some thought it was too early to do a contract, but I got So I started getting different opinions. I didn't go out and solicit them. I let people come to me. I have had approximately 45 emails, personal confrontations with people, and text messages in support of extending his contract. I've had 2 that did not want to extend the contract. In a democracy, that would be worse than a landslide. I'm telling you. What do the people want that work for our community? That's the question. Mr. Gilly, I couldn't totally disagree with you anymore about how did these raises come about. I do not understand. In my time, I've been quiet. I've been quiet.
I just
I've
didn't
been quiet.
understand. I just didn't understand you. That's all I'm saying. Can you repeat that?
What I'm saying is, I disagree with you saying that the board bought the raises. There's 2 entities that's responsible for these raises. One of them is Dr. Lawson that found the money, and the others are taxpayers of Coffee County. That's who gave our teachers raises. How many times has he said, I will do whatever this 5 board members want me to do? I bet he said it 200 times. Have we voted to send him to commission or requested or put it on the agenda for him to go to commission and increase taxes? 0, none. So I don't know what we talked about or what we were thinking, but he's offered to do anything that we ask. And I think he was responsible. Did we approve these raises? Absolutely. It's a great thing. He didn't increase the taxpayer burden. We've given bonuses, and hopefully we're going to give another one tonight for the last 4 years. Did we go to the commission and ask for more money to do that? Absolutely not. Okay, so he's found the money, and I'm very respectful for that. We went to TSBA, Tennessee School Boards Association, a few weeks ago. They gave us all the facts and everything right here from around Tennessee. If you look through that book, our starting teacher pay raise has gone up to all the counties that connect around us. We're higher. Us and Manchester are the highest 2 paying starting jobs in this area. There's 15 schools and districts around, including Delahoma, that they're lower for the starting pay. Okay? Did the board do that? Absolutely not. We didn't sit down and say we're going to increase the starting pay. He brought that to us and said these are things that we need to do. Okay? I like what our ambassador said. He goes into schools. I've had parents tell me that they appreciate seeing him standing out in the car unloading zone, and the kids respect him being there and being in the schools. Okay? Now, even the people that want to renew his contract, is everything positive? No. But he's a leader. He has to make decisions that sometimes upset people, but all but 2 said his contract needs to be renewed. So I think a no vote is a no vote against the people that we work for in our community. I think it's a no vote for the teachers and a no vote for our staff. So I want you to really think about what you're voting for. And I'm not saying that it's all a big golden egg for everything that we've done and that he's worked for and that we've supported, but it's a lot shinier than it used to be. And I just want everyone to know that I'm not the one that's shooting the goose, because I'm going to vote to extend his contract. 2 years is what he's asking for. 2 years. Any other comments?
I got a whole book, or we can vote. Which one?
Let's go to the vote. Let's see who's going to be first. We are voting on action item number 1, the director's contract, to renew it. And the first vote goes to Ms. Jones.
No. Yes.
Yes.
No. No.
Nay.
Yes.
Hold on, I lost.
Yeah, hold on. All right.
What did you vote, Mr. Cordell? I missed
No.
You voted no? And Mr. Gilly?
No.
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 Yes.
torn, y'all. I see it both ways. Dr. Lawson, you have some very, very high highs, and I've heard some very low lows from other people I've talked to. I like you. I don't want you to leave, but I would rather wait and vote on this again later. So I'm going to pass.
Chair votes yes, so it's 4 to 4 and a pass. So it does not pass. Okay? Action item number 2, extra employee pay. Dr. Lawson.
Yes, back in the spring when we were in budget season, and I mentioned this at the fall retreat, I'm just restating it for some people here in the room that were not at the fall retreat. Back in the budget development, we're in a new funding formula this year called TISA. It replaced the old funding formula called the BEP. We received 2 ways to calculate TISA. Being brand new, we didn't have any historical data to rely on. So we calculated it both ways, and the difference was significant, about $1 million difference. We did not feel, the state provided both of those, and we kind of got inconsistent feedback on which one was the correct one to use. So we used the more conservative of the 2 numbers. Had we gone with the higher of the 2 numbers and then it didn't happen, we would have been hitting fund balance more than we thought was appropriate. So we went with the conservative number, and I informed the board at the April spring retreat of what we had done. I also said at the April spring retreat that if the higher number comes in, that I would be coming to the board and requesting that additional funds from TISA and additional funds that were a result, basically unexpected, although we knew it could happen, these unexpected monies be given to the employees in the form of a extra pay. And we call it extra pay because if it's a bonus, then it gets taxed at a higher rate. So it's extra pay. So that money, we have now received 2 allotments. We have not received a third, have we, Ms.? It's posted. Oh, is it posted? Okay. We now have a 3rd allotment posted, and it is the higher amount. We feel comfortable that now that it's happened, there's 3 allotments. The higher amount is the one that came through. And so we have the ability to take that extra money and give it to the employees as extra pay. And again, if a motion is made, please do not use the word bonus, because we have to tax that at a little higher rate than extra pay. But what we are asking, it's the same thing I told you would come back in April when I first broached this. If the extra money is there, I will be asking for it for employees. Whoever makes the motion, if you are so inclined, you would use the words extra pay and structure it the same as it has been the last 2 years. And so that way it would be dispersed in the in the December paycheck and the June paycheck. But so it'd be split. But the total is right at $1,500 total for full-time employees who have been there the entire year. But it is broken down beyond that.
And it comes with your recommendation.
It does.
Okay. You've heard the director's recommendation to extend this extra pay structure to the same way it was in the previous 2 years.
Correct.
I so move.
Okay, Mr. Cordell, and that wording is okay with you?
Second.
And we have Mr. Crabtree.
Oh, Mr. Chair, I do need to say that part of that, the budget amendment to incorporate this is also later. So if this is passed, we will be pointing out which budget amendment that pertains to.
Okay. So we've had a motion and a second to give this employee extra pay. Is there any questions from the board?
Now, where is this funding coming from?
This is state funding, and so the new funding formula, we weren't absolutely certain that this money would come. So all the work that we did fixing the pay scale for teachers, as well with the 4% raise on top of that, and then the 7% raise for classified, We were able to do all of that with the more conservative of the two numbers. So this is state
money
This is state money that
so it's
basically,
nothing that we have pushed in our system to get. It's just coming to us.
Nobody knew how that was going to work out,
yeah,
going
as
from the old formula to TISA, and
we felt like
now we can see it.
we felt like we needed to go with the conservative number. Now that we know that it exists, then probably what will happen is we will be asking for this money, this difference that we're turning into extra pay this year. We will ask that it become part of percentage raises going forward. Now that we've had a year of TISA, well, by the time we get to the budget discussion, we will have almost a year of TISA under our belt at that point.
None of that money is freed up due to ESSER, so this is strictly TISA.
This is not ESSER. This is related to
Right, but
TISA
I mean,
and state.
sometimes we shift
Yes,
around
ESSER is federal. This is state funding.
Right.
And all employees will receive this bonus.
All full-time employees that have been with us the entire year would receive $1,500 split between the December paycheck and the June paycheck. We do that, and they have to be. The reason I asked for it is didn't want the motion to have to include all the details, but I'll give a quick rundown. Full-time employees, it's $1,500. Part-time employees, it's half of that of $750. And what happens is it is based upon the number of months served. So somebody that is hired in November does not get as much extra pay in the December paycheck as somebody who's been working the entire year. It is broken down in a monthly allotment, and when I'm done describing it, I'm gonna ask Ms. Melson to double check me, but I believe the way it's broken down is $150 a month for the months of July, August, September, October, I'm sorry. August, September, October, November, December. So that's 5 months at 150. So if somebody's been employed the entire school year, they will receive the full $750 in December. And then if they're employed with us, the same thing for January, February, March, April, May. The same thing will happen going into the June paycheck. And then if you're a part-time employee with us, then it would be $75 a month based on the numbers of months worked. It also has an incentive to stay with us through the end of a semester or academic year. And so the way we have done it now for several years in a row is that you have to be an employee of the district when that payroll is run, so that somebody doesn't work with us and leave December 1 and expect that they're going to get the bonus. So that's basically, this is the fourth extra pay that we've done in 4 years. And we're just asking to structure it exactly the way it has been previously.
Okay, and I think it needs to be understood that these pay raises have not come from the board going to the commission asking for money, nor you, which that's when the rubber hits the road, when we have to start getting it from our taxpayers in Coffee County. This is money that came to us from the state. So, and I mean, people need to understand that. It's not that we have increased our budget and the county commission has approved a salary raise or a bonus for people. This is money that has come to, it's a windfall, which is wonderful. And all the board have always been in agreement that this should go toward teacher salaries if at all possible. And it is possible, and that's why we did it. But this is a windfall. It's not something that we have gone out here and beat the bushes trying to get people to understand that we need raises in Coffee County for our teachers. This came from the state. And the other funding came from ESSER. So I think that needs to be understood, that it's nothing that we or you did. We used the money in this way to increase salaries and to give bonuses, but it was not anything we did or you.
Just the calculation
Other than
of
pay taxes.
TISA
Yes,
versus
ma'am.
the old.
I tried to explain that it came from the
And so,
calculation.
I mean, I'm thinking that, that a lot of people are thinking that you are the ones that, you're the one that came up with all this to give raises to the teachers. And it's kind of what Robert said. This is a windfall to us because of the new funding. And we used it for the right purpose.
Yes, ma'am. And my
And-
contract, the discussion on my contract, we've already had that one. This would be, basically, I'm just asking for the extra pay for the employees.
And I was correct in that as far as on this matter, this is just the difference in the calculation formula between where we used to be and
That's
then
the- that's-
TISA.
that
Nobody
is-
knew if TISA was gonna give more
That's
money
right.
or not, but glad it did.
That is the
Yes.
primary increase.
So
right
no,
there,
he would
yes.
recommend what he thinks we can do with the money, but it's our job to determine if that's what we elect to do. Dr. Lawson, and I know that I think.
And was my amount and allotment correct? Okay, I just wanted to confirm, yes.
And I think I know the answer to this, but the SROs are not included because they're county employees and they are not
That,
school
that
employees.
that
Is
is
that
correct.
correct?
That's why it's not included. When this first happened, the very first year, for a brief window of time, we did the first year that ESSER existed, there was a brief window of time in which some of that could be used as pay. We called it extra duties because teachers and employees were having to do so much extra work as part of COVID. Now, at that time, I sat down with the sheriff and we discussed it and that kind of thing. And it was just the way the ESSER money was done, it just was not possible since SROs are not school employees and ESSER is the elementary and secondary schools emergency relief. So it was strictly for school district employees, and SROs are partners and not employees. So that's why they have not been included. And so that's where we are.
Any other questions about the employee extra pay? Hearing none, we will vote to approve that. Action item number 2, Ms. Rose.
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye. That passes 9-0. Action item number 3, surplus technology. Dr. Lawson, or you need to speak
Let's
on this?
see.
Or
I'm going to defer to Mr. Damewood on this one.
We have some old stuff we need to get rid of and surplus it. They're old access points, they were purchased in 2015.
Tell it.
They were purchased in 2015 and they're end of life, the access points, and I think there's a disc array on there, that was purchased probably 12 years ago, and it's just time for it to go.
Okay, this surplus technology list comes with your recommendation, Dr. Lawson.
It does.
You've heard the director's recommendation to surplus this technology, the items on this list. I'd like to entertain a motion as such.
Absolutely.
Mr. Cordell? Second? Is that me, Mr. Crabtree? Get a second? No. Okay, any questions on this?
Does this include both lists that are, there's two, oh, wait a minute, maybe I got the same thing twice here.
There's 2 pages on the
Yeah,
technology
okay,
list.
got it. Sorry.
If there's no other comments or questions, we're going to vote to surplus on action item number 3, the technology list. Mr. Crabtree?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That passes 9-0. Action item number 4, surplus bus. Do you,
Yes, I'll defer to Mr. Shores on this one. It's pretty self-explanatory.
You have a sheet in front of you that was the school bus 06-13. It is one of our small buses. It's the resource bus. You can tell the reason why is 200,000 miles is on it. It is damaged and the AC is not working. And I can see why somebody might would ask, the AC doesn't work on those buses. Yes, on those buses you have to have AC on the small buses. And by the time it would be replaced or fixed, it would cost more than it's worth. And also it's about to run out as well. So that's the reason why we're wanting to surplus the bus.
And it comes with your recommendation to surplus this bus, Dr. Lawson?
It does.
You heard the director's recommendation to surplus bus 0613. I'd like to entertain a motion to do so. Mr. Cordell? Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Jennifer? Questions about the bus?
We have a replacement for this one, right?
Yes.
We should wait to surplus this to sell it to some Bonnaroo people.
What size,
Welcome to hit gov deals.
what size bus is it? Because I know that our regular buses aren't air conditioned.
Right. This is one for our resource students that are,
That's smaller, okay.
it's a small bus.
So they do require that to be air conditioned?
Yes. For good reasons.
Yeah, too bad our real buses aren't.
Any more questions? We are going to vote to surplus bus 0613. Mr. Cordell?
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye. That passes 9-0. Action item number 5, East Coffee Elementary and Hickerson additions renovations. Dr. Lawson?
Yes, as part of the as part of the fall retreat the week before fall break, we took a tour of Hickerson Elementary and East Coffee Elementary to kind of detail some of the things that were needed. What this motion, it's not, if this vote is not going to be that we're going to do the project. What I'm going to ask for is a motion that allows Mr. Shores and myself and the district to proceed with these plans for, or proceed with developing plans for additions and renovations. Right now, as part of the school tour, felt like it was well received by board members. They saw the need for these kind of things, but at this point, the board has taken no official action allowing us to proceed. Now, proceeding would be formalizing contact with, I've had some preliminary contacts with the mayor's office to start developing that, but to approach the commission about the funding for said projects. We would also, in order to develop any kind of idea, we would have to move forward with engineering and architectural programs in order to make sure that we can put together a bid package and that kind of thing. So basically, all I'm looking for, and I will say this, the important thing is that these two elementary schools, we have, as some of you have seen, we have extra rooms at our schools in order to adjust for future growth. We're trying to be very strategic and make sure that we are prepared in all areas. These are the two schools with the lowest capacity for growth. And so what these renovations would actually allow that, it would free up some rooms, and it would also update some common areas such as gymnasium, library, cafeteria, and some of these common spaces, and bring those two schools on par with what we find at all other elementary schools. So basically, that's why we are asking to proceed with this process. So all we're needing is a motion to proceed with this, and that does not mean it's going to happen, because there's a lot of steps, and then it will come back from committee eventually, and there will be a vote to, you'll have a price tag, you'll have all the information you need before it becomes a reality at that point. But this allows us to get started.
And this comes with your recommendation.
It does.
Okay, you've heard the director's recommendation to
Mr.
have a
Chairman?
motion to proceed on the East Coffee Elementary and Hickerson Elementary additions renovation.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we proceed on the feasibility and looking at financial options for this. So basically what the director has suggested.
Okay,
A second.
motion and a second. Okay, now, Ms. Jones?
Okay, in looking at the enrollment, I know that East Coffee has increased in enrollment, and so has Hickerson.
Yes, ma'am.
Deerfield has increased in enrollment. New Union has decreased, and Hillsborough has increased. And I certainly see that East Coffee and Hickerson are two areas that need to be addressed. My concern is that at Hickerson, we need to keep this open so that we may need to look at a new elementary school in that area. That's a very old building there. And to look at like Mr. Ballard said, a feasibility study, a cost of what it would take to add to it or renovate and versus building a new one. I don't think that we need to limit ourselves on adding on. Now, East Coffee we call it a newer building. It's really not, but it is newer than Hickerson, and it is a plan that you can work with and make it really look like a really nice new building, because it's already pretty. It's really pretty out there. But my concern is at Hickerson that we really need to look at that closer and see if maybe there's another option. That building is very, very old, and it's a wonderful school, and it's growing, and that's just my thinking of maybe call it a feasibility study or something, so that we're not just limited us, I can't even talk, to just renovating. Maybe look at that, because Hickerson historically has remained the same enrollment for a long, long time, and then just in the past few years it's been increasing in enrollment. So that's just my thoughts.
Sure.
Comment? Mr. Gilly, go ahead.
Could we look at this as a little bit clear, maybe an amendment to the main motion, but a little bit clearer to nail down, to pursue, of course, starting the talks with the county and planning on the financial, but possibly opening up the door for development of direction and bid it out for architect and engineering, and part of the specs incorporate a feasibility of the price difference between a major renovation or just a replacement like at Hickerson. Because I think I know what Miss Jones is talking about, and we can add on at Hickerson, I believe, but I believe we're probably getting close in the next several years to possibly a lot of influx in that area. I mean, there's a new subdivision that I noticed out there the other day, a new subdivision going in right next door. I think, we talked about that in the fall retreat about having a lot more room back in that area behind there. You could possibly never miss a day of school in the old building until the other one's complete and simply do a move. So I'd like to, but I'd just like maybe to clarify a little bit more in depth of proceed with attacking the financial part of it, and then also proceed with possibly getting 3 bids while speccing it to come up with a concept and come up with a conceptual price of a whole new building or a major renovation of whatever we come up with in the speccing.
So do we include that as an option? So we got option is to build on, and another option
and
is
then the
to
services,
replace.
maybe we'll have to approve.
Right
get
now, the
through.
item on the agenda says additions and renovations.
Right, and
You can simply put additions, renovations, and replacement, potentially, or potential replacement or whatever.
as it's worded right now, what money would we be spending if we approve this?
Right now, the only money would be is if we start to contract with engineering or architectural services or that kind of thing. A lot of the first steps aren't really going to cost us anything per se, because the first steps the Capital Projects Committee has to incorporate some temporary members from the commission and make sure to get commissioners into these buildings, let them see some of the same concerns the board saw 2 weeks ago, and go from there. So the initial expenditure is almost zero. It is the next step before we can start discussing price tags and stuff. An engineering firm with access to architects is going to have to start developing some sort of plan, and that's when money will be expended. So that's where we are.
I guess I just want to make sure that we get that down of who we're using for that and how much it's gonna cost.
But we're gonna at least need some preliminary ideas on what we're doing if we're gonna talk funding with the commission, right?
Of course,
Yeah, so that's gonna require some engineering.
some engineering and architects, yes.
Yeah, would that be OLG that would
I,
do that for us?
Mr. Shores and I discussed that. That's not set in stone, not necessarily. That's wide open.
I
We
think
were
we
just-
have to pick by law anyways, any contractual of engineering or architecture services. We would have to approve that.
Mr. Chair, can you have Mr. Ballard restate his motion as to what it was going to say?
Okay.
Thanks.
Well, I guess we're not looking at a feasibility study per se then, right? So maybe we need to restate that we're doing a preliminary examination of,
Is what you want the motion to say?
yeah. I think I said feasibility and funding options for, Hickerson and, East Coffee renovations, but should we modify it to include possible?
There can be a friendly amendment if the maker of the motion and the second agree to add the word "and potential replacement."
So that would look into both situations.
So
And/or, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm hearing here.
At some time,
I'm fine.
we're gonna have to contract with somebody to design and
we have
study.
neither Mr. Shores nor I have contacted any engineering or architectural services because all we have so far is a spring retreat.
Yeah.
This
Fall.
retreat, I keep saying that, it's the fall retreat. And so all this is letting us move forward with contacting the commission and starting that investigation into options for engineering and architecture. That's all we're looking to do. We didn't want to spend a lot of time developing anything and then find out that it was not something the board was interested in.
So you have the motion.
What I have.
Let's hear what you have.
Motion to proceed with East Coffee Hickerson additions / renovations or replacement. Do you
I think
want to
that-
put the feasibility in there?
I don't think we're doing feasibility at this point, but we're looking at,
I think it's more of a go for, feasibility study, financial investigation, and I guess rounding up architects and engineers, and then we'll have to approve somebody.
how does that?
All right,
So
read,
it's a
read,
big
read
deal.
what we have. This is the motion right
Well,
now.
I need him to go all the way through and just tell me what he's going to say in the motion.
Correct.
What?
I think that's, trying to remember exactly what I said. So feasibility and preliminary, financial, how did I put it? Financial or funding analysis for Coffee County or Hickerson and East Coffee renovations or replacement.
All right. Feasibility and preliminary financial funding analysis for East Coffee and Hickerson.
Yeah,
Now, so when I put that in there, all that's got to be done, correct?
yeah. Does that give you what you guys need? So,
Read it one more time.
Feasibility and preliminary financial funding analysis for East Coffee and Hickerson Elementary.
And then I would add the words additions, renovations, or replacement.
Or replacement, Hickerson.
Yeah, or Hickerson replacement. And you can read that, and the original person who made the motion can say, yes, that's what I intended the first
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, what he said.
that works for me. Yeah.
Motion to approve preliminary financial funding analysis for East Coffee, Hickerson Elementary, additions, renovations, or Hickerson's replacement.
I think that'll work.
And Mr. Ballard, you're saying that's what you intended and said the first time?
Yes.
Okay, who had the second on that?
Mr.
Mr. Cordell, is that what you understood when you seconded?
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure you guys are getting what you need to move forward with this, so I was trying to jam it all in there instead of just saying, well, let's kind of take a look-see at it. That's not a good motion.
Okay. Is everyone happy as they can be? We are going to vote on that motion. Action item number 5. Basically, the renovation or looking at replacement of East Coffee and Hickerson. And Mr. Gilly, you have the first vote.
Aye.
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 Chair votes no. Passes 8-1. Action item number 6, TISA accountability report. Dr. Lawson, you want to speak on this? Or?
I'm going to yield to Dr. Cornelius. He has taken point on working on this and would be much better able to answer questions than I.
Dr. Cornelius, welcome to the front. Come on up.
Okay, what you've got in your packets, I assume, is the TISA accountability report. This is a report that has to be done as part of the TISA law, that we have to complete this and submit it by November 1 of each year, and it gets a board approval and recorded in the minutes. Basically what this is we look at it together, we come up with goals. They're kind of written in SMART goal language, is what they told us to do. And I've consulted with our core person in South Central to help us with this and develop, and we also convened a committee to get together and develop some goals for the report. What it does basically is just give a projection of where we might like to be. We don't have to have, the only goal that's non-negotiable with the TISA accountability is the first one, and that's the third grade retention. You cannot, you don't have any wiggle room there. The first 3 years of the third grade retention, you must close the gap. You must determine your gap and do a 15% closure of the gap to reach 70% within a reasonable amount of time. And this is all proficiency, which equals achievement. That's why it's called that. So the first one, we were at 39.8% proficiency. Well, and I need to say the word achievement now for third grade last year. So we subtract the 70, I think it was 30.2, and then start dividing out, figure out the 15% gap, which I think was like 4.53, and then add that each year, and then get to a reasonable amount of time when we could achieve 70% proficiency on the third grade ELA. And we projected that out to be about 2030. Now, I sat through a series of 6 webinars on this alone, Krista and I did. And so the other suggestion was, you don't have to have 5 goals, you don't have to have 4, you can do what you want to do. But they did suggest that you try to include all grade levels, all bands in your goal statements, in your accountability report. We're admonished we don't include anything that is ESSER related in here. We don't include Perkins funded items in this report. It's strictly TISA and what we gain from the TISA pile, and what sits in TISA, not what sits outside of it, in other words. And the expenditure narratives, we were told, and that all they want is that we will show how we would use the existing money through TISA to meet some of the action steps that we came up with and that we put down. Now you can include, like we did, I believe on third grade ELA's goal, we did include some of the instructional coaches that have been paid with ESSER funds. And we did make a note in that expenditure narrative that we would like to plan to move that to general purposes next year, because ESSER sunsets on June 30th of 2024. So for the 24-25 year, we've made a note of that and said that we would like to plan to move that to general purposes. And they said you could put that in your narratives. And also, as you look through it, each year that you come back, if you more than exceed, then your goals are going to change for the next year. So it's a dynamic document too at the same time. And that first page we also chose ready grad status to hit the high school, okay? And we were sitting this year with 37.4% ready grad for high school, and then the team met, including high school administrators, and they decided upon moving it 10 points further. And understand that moving ready grad, it may sound low, but that's a lot. It takes a lot to move those pieces and get the bump ups in the ready grad pile. Then we also hit, since we had elementary, we hit middle school with 40% proficiency on the 8th grade ELA and 40% proficiency on the 8th grade math, and we were also very public as to where we started, because that's a good suggestion. We began with 18.6% proficiency in ELA with 8th grade, and then we began with a 12.6 proficiency with math in the 8th grade on the math TCAP. So within about 5 years, we'd like to see that move to 40%. None of that is prescriptive by TDOE. You develop these yourselves. You be realistic. You have to be realistic. And again, with the math one, we think it will jump quite a bit because of the new mathematics adoption this year and the new materials that the teachers have. We expect it to go up quite a bit this year than what it was last year. So that's what the accountability report is. And then there is one more piece, and we felt it very important to bring it to the board first, let you see it first before anybody publicly saw it. So we will put it on the website for public view after tonight. And then we just submit this to TDOE with your approval. We submit it to TDOE by November 1st and include the minutes from this evening that we have, looked at. So I'll probably come back to you about every year about this time to bring you an update on the TISA report and where we are. And that's part of the accountability. And right now with accountability, I won't get into that, but we're having to manage state accountability and federal accountability now because of the USED's findings on the TDOE. So that's trickled down to all of us. So we're having to manage two buckets at the same time right now with state accountability and federal accountability. So I won't bore you with that though. But that's it. And if you have any questions, I can't say that I can answer all of them, but I'll do my best.
Okay. Well, let's get a motion, and we'll just don't go anywhere yet.
Okay.
Dr. Lawson, does approving this accountability report come with your recommendation?
It does.
Okay, you heard the director's recommendation to approve the TISA accountability report. I'd like to entertain a motion to do as such.
Second.
Mr. Gilly and Mr. Crabtree got the second. All right, now any questions for?
So on our action steps here in each of these 4 goals, how many of those are we already doing? Are these all new action steps?
No, not all of them. These are action steps that we're paying, and that's what we brought up in the some of the webinars. In fact, I brought it up too. we've already, I said, the board has already approved this budget for this year, for what you're speaking of. So we're not adding expenditures to this. We're going to tell, and I said, am I correct in telling you what we're already doing? So that's a very good question, and it is. These are things we're already doing, and then we have to put in the narrative how the expenditures and general purposes will help us to meet that. But yes, that's a good question. These are things that we do to get there because we want to reach our goals, and again, like I said, be realistic, and at the same time meet them by that particular timeline. So yes, that is a true statement.
If we're doing a lot of these things already, how do we then plan on moving the needle? I mean, what are we doing new that's going to move the needle for us to get us to our objectives here?
Well, hopefully it all happens at the classroom level and at the teacher level with what they do on a daily basis with assessing their students, teaching their students, knowing where they are, knowing where their weaknesses are. In the instance for third grade, and I know that middle school uses it too, the Ames Web, Ames Web is approved by the TDOE right now to be a benchmark to help you move students when they take the TCAP. So you need to use what you have without creating extra, because like I said, all of this exists in TISA as it stands right now. So this is just basically, you're telling TDOE, this is what you're going to do, this is what your district is doing to try to meet these goals. And they did say that it all had to be, everything you do with this, it all has to be academic related.
Okay,
So this
and
is
Dr.
very
Cornelius, I'll step in. I'll try to answer Mr. Ballard's question, and you did. But if you look at page 3, and it talks about 2023-24 school year, this is about third grade ELA proficiency, goal statement 1. And it has over in the action steps 5 different things. Now, even though we're doing those, it doesn't mean that we aren't adding to them. Okay, consistent implementation of the high quality instructional materials in grades K-3. Our teachers have been doing that to the best of their ability for decades. But we are dropping in more funds, and we're trying to provide professional development to allow that to proceed even more. Early identification of at-risk students and provide them with targeted interventions such as RTI. Dr. Cornelius mentioned Ames Web. We're working with the state to make sure that we're doing that. That's one that we are already using, and it probably won't change a whole lot. Summer programming. That is something that has been funded separately, but it's being added into TISA now to a higher degree, and so that's why it's in the TISA accountability report. Third grade ELA personnel is something we always provide, but letters training is a relatively recent thing, and that's part of this science of reading curriculum that has kind of taken education over the last few years, and that's the particular program we're using, and we're expanding that letters training by grade level. And so even though we've done letters training now for a couple of years, we are continuing to train new employees and new grade levels. So so even though some of these things we have been doing, we are expanding them into other grade levels and pushing that into other classrooms.
So do we expect that, I mean, because the TCAP scores have been pretty, bouncing around. I know we took a hit at COVID, and ELA has recovered, but math has not been doing so well, and there's a lingering effect from that. But I'm just wondering how we're gonna, because they've been relatively static where we've been at, is, are these steps enough to reach these goals? I mean, and obviously there's no penalty here if we don't hit the goals. Okay, so it's a goal for the sake of a goal, but and we got to have goals, but are we doing enough? For instance, the third grade ELA. We've talked a lot about test anxiety, and when we're getting to the high school in the ACT, we're putting the kids through ACT prep classes. Why can't we do that? Teaching kids how to take how to take the TCAP test. That is not cheating, that's removing test anxiety. So why can't you do stuff, and, maybe you can enlighten, because I'm, I don't know, but that's kind of what I would think if that's an issue. But
I'm sure they do at the classroom
Yeah.
level, at the building level. And it wouldn't be an exhaustive list by any means.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Cursory review of what we do. And they did want to, we were also admonished to put in there about our personnel at each time, because the biggest portion of the TISA dollars, as you know, in general purposes, goes and funds retention, recruitment, the salary increases that you vote for, et cetera. So it does do that. So that's another thing. That's another reason we put that in there. And they will, they'll look at it, but it's not, like you said, it's not a gotcha or anything like that.
Right.
I don't perceive it.
But I suspect it will eventually become that.
We hope
as
not.
TISA moves forward, they're gonna hold you to these goals.
I hope not, but who knows? We want to do the very best and bring it up to the highest that we
Right.
possibly can.
I mean, TISA already has outcome-based funding based on ACT scores and third grade.
Correct,
Yeah,
yes, yes, and we've not received those. That part has not been dropped yet, nor do we know what the exact
Yeah.
funding for that will be. That's to be dropped in December is the latest that I was told. The outcomes funding, outcomes based, will drop in December. Is what I was.
It'll drop in and I won't have any notice.
Right.
It drops into my folder and I'll show both of you.
But the important thing is, our funding is directly affected by our TCAP scores, at least part of it through TISA.
And the TISA pyramid, the outcomes-based part of it, you're exactly right. That's correct. That's correct. And moving students up from, just because they're below, if you bring them up to approaching on the next one, that's good. That's a positive outcome. So that helps too. It doesn't mean that you just have to be up there at the very top all the time. It shows that you're making those efforts and you're moving children up from the lowest quintile or quartile up. This is based on quartiles instead of quintiles, but going up.
All right, but we don't just want to make efforts, we want to get real results.
Oh yes, absolutely.
So basically, what our goal is in 8th grade math is to increase it to 40% proficient in 3 years. And that's kind of sad. It's kind of concerning to think that right now, if I was looking at my child individually and they scored 12% proficient in math, I would be terrified. And that's what we're looking at. And that's not a very lofty goal, 40%, but when you're starting at 12%,
It helps like more than triples it if you look at it from where you start. And that's why they told us, they said, look at it from where you've started to where you want to try to go. And then, of course, as you know very well, the SMART goal, the whole basis behind SMART goals is to be attainable and reachable. So you want instructors, you want the teachers to know that this is something that you can reach, that you can shoot for, and you hopefully will surpass that goal. But you want it to be something that they know that's tangible, that they can reach, and not something that you're setting way out, way far out that they might not possibly reach.
Are there districts that did well in 8th grade math? If there are, we need to be looking at what they're doing.
By and large, from what we've been told, the 8th grade math for some reason, and the 8th grade ELA, was fairly low across the state. I mean, I have no idea why, but it was fairly low across the entire state. I don't know.
But that would be a good thing to look at the systems that are doing well and maybe seeing what they're doing differently.
And there were a lot of systems that, like at 3rd grade with our 39.8, there were a lot of systems that were even below 39. But there were those that were way up, and I never did confirm. I told them I need to, but there's one county, and they're very small, and they had over 70%. I can't remember which one it is on the 3rd grade proficiency. But in this area, I can assure you that in South Central, with a 39.8, we're comparable. I mean, we're all hovering right
In
in
the
there
third grade.
together.
We should-
Yes, that's correct.
I noted that Lincoln, go ahead.
Ms. Rose first, and then I'll get you.
Thank you. I just need a memory refresher. High school level EPSO courses. I can't
That's
remember
the,
what that acronym
yes,
stands
those are
for.
the, early post-secondary opportunities. Those will be.
That's
your
like the certification.
Your dual enrollment courses and
Okay,
your
state.
dual credit
Gotcha.
courses and your AP courses.
Okay.
Those course codes will pull, and they're already identified as EPSOs in the course coding that I send up.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Cordell, go ahead.
I noted on that study that Lincoln County, and looking at some of the scoring, they were consistently on the higher in South Central District. They were way up the top. And I noted 2 or 3 other counties were consistently way down below us. That's really concerning. I don't know how we, as a system across the state, how it's evolved down over time to those low levels. I'm glad we're now addressing and reviewing this. It's time.
That's right. We want to get up.
Yes.
Okay. Any more questions for Dr. Cornelius? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
If not, we will vote on action item number 6, the TISA accountability report, to approve it. Mr. Ballard, you're first.
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye. That passes 9-0. Action item number 7, budget amendment 141-2024-4. Dr. Lawson or Ms. Melson?
I'll defer to Ms. Melson on these.
This budget amendment is the new grant money that Richard Skipper had received last year. This is just to roll over leftover funds from, this is a 3-year grant. So this is just the budget amendment to bring the rolled over funds from last school year into our budget. And I'll take additional questions if you guys have them.
Okay. And so this budget amendment comes with your recommendation, Dr. Lawson?
It does.
Okay, you heard the director's recommendation to accept the budget amendment 141-20244. I'd like to entertain a motion to accept that.
So moved.
Mr. Cordell, and then Mr. Crabtree. Got the second. Okay, questions on this particular amendment?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is just moving leftover revenues from vocational innovative school models to basically the general fund?
Yes, it's a state grant, and
Okay.
I don't have it in our current budget because because it's required that I go through a year-end process with this grant by itself. And so this is to bring the funds that weren't spent in the last school year into our budget for this school year to be able to spend those.
So we had $2 million for vocational.
Well, we had more than that. We got this grant, I think, March or April of last year. So it was toward the end of school year, and we spent maybe 200,000 of it. But this is and then this will be rolled over for the next school year if all of this is not spent by the end of this school year. Whatever's left will be rolled into the next school year.
Okay.
Any more questions on
Yes,
this amendment?
it's a one-time grant that can be spent over multiple years.
Okay.
So that's what we're doing.
It's not a every year same grant. It's just one grant in a 3-year period.
That's
Each year
correct.
you got that much.
And that's why you'll notice some of the positions start off funded, say 75% grant, 25% budget. By the end of the time, you have to reverse that and be prepared to take that completely on the budget. But it decreases, that percentage changes each year.
If you can stretch that out a little long, you can hold on to them longer if you ain't got nowhere else to fund it from.
That's right. So that's part of it.
I have one question.
Go ahead, Ms. Jones.
I have just one question. I know the number 1 stands for Innovative School Models Grant. So number 1, there where it says $1 million in capital outlay, that would be broken down into what that's going to be spent for in some other budget?
So the $1 million is for the high school CTE building. So that's where a large amount of that funding that y'all previously discussed in a different meeting will come from this grant. So this is additional funds from the Innovative School Models grant.
So it's contracted services.
Yes, that's what we'll use to pay. That's the lines that were approved by the State Department to use.
So that $1 million will go toward that building.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We're voting to approve Budget Amendment 141, 2024-4. Mr. Parsley.
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye. Passes 9-0. Budget Amendment 141-2024-5. Ms. Melson.
This is the budget amendment for extra pay for the employees. It's this budget amendment is for 1.2 million. This will use a large portion of the extra TISA funds that we're going to receive. I will take additional questions if you have them.
Okay. This budget amendment comes with your recommendation, Dr. Lawson.
It does.
Okay. You've heard the director's recommendation to accept the budget amendment 141-2024-5. I'd like to entertain a motion for such.
So moved.
Mr. Crabtree this time. And
Second.
And Mr. Cordell. Okay. Questions about this amendment? Hearing none. Miss Jennifer.
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye. That passes 9-0. Action item number 9, Budget Amendment 141-2024-6. Ms. Melson?
So after doing the extra pay amendment, we had $206,000 left that we needed to allocate from additional TISA funds. And so there were other places in the budget that we needed to do so. So this budget amendment covers the extra we have paid for liability and work comp insurance, the refinish at the high school gym floor, the pre-K curriculum, some vocational teachers mileage that wasn't in the budget previously, and then some additional funding that we will need for school paper supplies and transportation supplies and parts. So we're going to use the $206,000 to cover these items within our current budget.
Okay. And this budget amendment comes with your recommendation, Dr. Lawson?
It does.
Okay. You heard the director's recommendation to accept Budget Amendment 141-2024-6. And so we've got everything ready to, no. Need a motion on this one.
So moved.
Oh,
Second.
Ms. Rose, Mr. Crabtree.
I know.
All right. Questions on this one?
I have a question on the number 4, other capital outlay. You said it's the gym floor.
Yes, the gym floor at the high school, it had reached a state where the scuff and recoat was no longer sufficient to provide a good-looking and safe and proper playing surface. So the gym floor over fall break, it was sanded down all the way to wood, removing all the paint and that kind of thing. They will be repainting the lines and resealing the floor. If you've ever seen the gym floor when the bleachers are drawn back, you can recognize that's a lot of square footage, and it costs approximately $40,000 to do that job. So that project is in process. And so this, and we have some money in capital outlay so that we haven't overextended ourselves. If this budget amendment is not passed, we can still pay for it. It's just that we were going to use this extra money to help that particular, because it's not only a basketball court, it's a volleyball court, it's a PE court, it's an assembly ground. It's basically a catch-all for a lot of different activities.
Any more questions on this amendment? Hearing none, we're voting on action item number 9. 141-2024-6 to approve. Ms. Jones.
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye. That passes 9-0.
Sure.
Yes.
Can we have like a recess, or can I be excused for one?
Go right ahead. Yeah, no, you're fine. Action item number 10, the budget update. Ms. Melson?
Okay, this is a budget update through August. Right now, through August, we are year-to-date 8.44% received for revenue, compared to last year-to-date 7.53%. So we're a little ahead of where we were at last year due to our increase in our state funding through TISA, and then also we had a pretty decent sales tax month. And then expenditures, we are currently at used 12.10% of budget compared to last year of 10.05% of budget. A couple areas where you will see an increase is in line 71300 vocational program. That contains, I've mentioned this last month, that contains purchase orders that were carried over from the ISM grant from last year. And then also you will see that in 76100 capital outlay. And then I mentioned the budget amendment for the additional insurance cost, and you will see that in line 72310. If you have additional questions about the budget update, I'll be glad to take those.
Okay. This update comes with your recommendation, Dr. Lawson.
It does.
Okay, if you've heard the director's recommendation, I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the budget update.
That's so moved.
Mr. Cordell,
Second.
seconds Ms. Rose. Specific questions? Hearing none, we'll vote to approve action item number 10, the budget update. Ms. Rose?
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye. That passes 8-0. Oh, budget update, you wish to vote on it?
Nope.
Okay, it passes 8-0. Just in time for action item number 11. And, yep, go ahead. We've had a motion, I think, to reconsider the CTE project.
Yes, I'd like to move to reconsider our decision at the last meeting to, I think the motion was to approve the proceeding with building the building contingent and environmental study. And I'd like to bring that back and.
So if we can we've got a motion to reconsider, and then if we get a second, then we can vote on it.
Second.
All right, so we've got a motion and a second by Mr. Gilly, Mr. Crabtree. So basically what this will do, if we approve this, then we'll do everything.
Amen.
And we can keep voting. So are there any questions about what we would do if we reconsider it? Okay. If not, let's vote to reconsider the motion. Mr. Crabtree.
Aye.
Mr. Cordell.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Chair votes aye, 9-0. So now we have it's back alive.
Yep.
You can start your discussion or what you.
I would like to amend that motion to allow construction to commence so that we can get this keep this project on schedule. I know the environmental was a big concern. It was kind of a holdup, but pushing the environmental and I would like to ask for discussion and that second part of it to discuss the environmental part after this. But right now, I think I need to amend this to just constitute moving forward with the project and letting construction go ahead. The geotechnical did elaborate for a vapor barrier under the slab. I think that'll handle some issues with possible methane and the environmental side of things. I think that does need to go ahead and go on, and that would be my amendment for that, but I would respectfully request a second vote to discuss the environmental issues.
Okay. So you are requesting that we pass the project and get it started. So what do you want to request on the environmental issues after that? If we, just go
That
ahead and
we-
enlighten us what you would be interested in.
That we vote to approve pursuing environmental study to be done on the grounds of Coffee County Central High School.
Okay.
Because
May I approach?
Yep, that would be great, yes.
Let me,
You have-
here's the motion.
Okay.
Here's the motion. I don't, here's, the motion was made. And
Yeah.
so are you can say, if you wanted to say, strike that language or.
Right,
that-
where we put,
I'm
okay.
not telling you what motion, I'm just saying that's one potential.
Well, and that's what I will probably actually state the actual motion of.
Well, all right, here's what the original motion was last time. Let me just read it so everybody will understand. A motion was
That's it.
made by Robert Gilly to accept the bids, including the canopy alternates, in the total of $1,159,590.85, contingent upon a good environmental report. Kathy Rose seconded the motion. This came with the recommendation of the Director of Schools. The motion passed 9-0. So you're saying we would strike,
Contingent upon a good
so
environmental
it would
report.
be period right after the $1,159,000, okay? Now, but what, if we pass that, you want to,
I want to make a motion to approve pursuing environmental study. We don't have time. I think they had to have this building by this meeting to pursue, to make sure money was locked in. Things of that nature. I don't personally think we're going to find anything that would halt it anyways. However, I have a major, strong concern that after all of these years, no one has any kind of record of an environmental study of anything dangerous or harmful, or at least I've not been provided that after several attempts to get that information.
Mr. Gilly, something has been found.
Where?
Okay.
Here?
It was in some files. Now, like I said, what we can have is if you want to remove that language, get a second, discuss it, and we can then go over some of the data that we have on hand before the vote occurs to remove that language.
and then we can remove it.
We have to
and-
get to the discussion phase.
Okay. So it would be best if you've made your motion for
To
the,
remove those
to remove those words, contingent of,
upon a good environmental report.
and if we can get a second for that,
I'll do that.
Ms. Rose, so that's, we got Mr. Gilly.
And please keep in mind, even if that's removed, another amendment can be made to add back whatever language the board desires.
Right. I want to hear what we found.
Okay, so now we've got the motion in a second, and yeah, let's see what we have come up with before we.
Okay, through doing some more research, I did locate a folder where there was testing done in the building, the main building, where they actually drilled through the pad and actually did core testing in the building that is currently there. This is not testing on the outside of the building where we are looking to put the CTE building. And this was back in 2000 and 2002. There was also testing done in 2013, and in all these tests, there were no detection
Of
of
what?
methane.
Of methane, okay. But we've not had any kind of phase one environmental,
That's what I have. That's
okay, that's
yeah,
all you got.
That's what I have.
That's not a,
Were those
And-
and I
signed
would have,
paper tests?
when did you find these?
I actually found them about an hour ago, about an hour before the meeting. Sorry.
Were those soil tests or were they vapor tests?
Vapor, I believe. I would need to read even a little bit more. It was the industrial hygienist that did this work.
Yeah.
So, but I would have to read some more on it.
Please understand, these folders are dozens, if not 100
Yeah.
pages plus, and just being found this afternoon, we've not read the entire thing. It does say that, I was not at the meeting in September. I did watch it on video. There was some concern expressed about methane and that kind of thing. This at least addresses the existing building, that indeed the pad has been penetrated, and testing under the pad, the existing pad has occurred, and no methane has been detected in any of the tests conducted in that time frame. And some of those holes are 20 years old.
All right. That makes me feel better about pulling those words out of that motion.
Okay.
However, I would still like a further opportunity for a motion here to recommend that we pursue phase 1, possibly into phase 2 environmental studies.
Now, are you talking about environmental studies for this site, for this building, or the whole school, the whole campus?
What year was the ninth grade?
Your phase 1.
Ninth grade wing built.
Your phase 1.
What's a phase 1? This is terms that I'm not familiar, and so
I'm gonna let Mr. Thomas help on the phase
Basically,
1.
an environmental detective report that'll go back through all the past history and the adjacent sites and look at what all the environmental issues are, the contaminants, and provide you a report. It doesn't involve any testing per se. That would be called a phase 2, but
It'll
phase
narrow
1 is just
down
looking at the history. So, and
your list of
determining what the
items to
potential
actually
problem.
test.
There is also, and again, whatever 5 members of the board wants, we're going to proceed in that way. Mr. Shores did receive another quote from a company provided through OLG, and I'll let him describe. It was basically a methane test. They tested for certain volatile organic compounds and that kind of thing, and that one was for, I believe, $2,100. He received that from OLG as far as a company to contact, and so we're happy to move forward with phase 1 with a company. That's my understanding, is that's basically they research existing stuff and then decide if you need to move to phase 2. And phase 1, I think, was in the neighborhood of 3,000 or so. Phase 2 would, if they came out as soon as they put a drill to dirt, you're talking about $10,000 is my impression. And so, but obviously that's just where we are. So, but if the concern is methane and certain volatile organic compounds, the best price we have found there is this particular company that can do that for $2,100. But first, what you'd have to do, what I would recommend for simplicity's sake, is once the discussion is done, vote to remove that language as Mr. Gilley has stated, and then you can decide after the vote if you wanted to amend it once more and add other language back in. I think that would clarify things as much as possible.
I don't necessarily think we got to add other language in. I think because I'm just astonished that we have no phase 1, phase 2 report and the history that school has been there.
That's the reason I was asking about the ninth grade wing. That was a pretty big project to have been constructed.
I don't know why we haven't had that. And I mean, do I like? I mean, $10,000 to have something on file that covers this school system from now on, or exposes something bad. I think $10,000 is one heck of a insurance policy to have that.
Yes.
Once and for all, we can say we had that done.
Yes.
Possible that those were done, and we may.
There is possibility.
That
once again, the the old ninth grade wing, what we call the old ninth grade wing, was built, I believe it was 98, 99, 2000, around that area. This report is after the building was built, because they bored through the concrete. So that would have been 2000. And then we have like I said, I think it was 2013? No, 2002. And then it goes up to 2013 where they did tests. And don't forget also all the way around the perimeter of the landfill, which is right there next to it, there's also tests that they do. There are wells that they constantly do the test for the methane there as well on a regular basis.
Which
AEDC does that, correct?
AEDC does that, yes.
Which we didn't. those cores is more in the phase 2. We just tested for methane because we had a landfill next to us. We wanted to make sure. In my understanding, the phase 1 is this is the way that Brian explained it to you with Terracon.
Right. Basically, what
if
Mr.
the
Ballard
phase
said.
the phase 1 covers you as an individual or board or whatever as your due diligence of protection to check out what's going on there. We don't have a phase 1. It's like we skipped. It's like we skipped and drilled some holes and went to a phase 2, which I guess, I mean, that's okay. That's good news. It makes me feel better about
The way I understood Mr. Wilson was that a phase 1, they would basically come out, scan the property, and say, does it look like there's a reason why we need to do testing? We will also pull all the records and data from other places and actually do what Mr. Ballard said, research that information to say, do we need to do a phase 2? And as Mr. Ballard had mentioned one time, if I understood it correctly, basically if you go out there and you see a landfill, well, there might be, that's going to automatically jump into, yeah, you probably need to do a phase 2. Unless they look at the reports from the drill holes and they all came back non-detected of methane. But once you go into phase 2, you're jumping up to approximately, it's less than, it could be up to 10,000 or more. The prices I got for it was 10,000, 9,200, 8,900, and then I got this one for 2,100. That includes a core drill.
Well, but you're still not discussing the phase 1. Just like with Terracon, you was at $3,200 for a phase 1. The reason for the phase 1, and it was discussed and put into the paper and the emails and everything else you received, was because of where that property is. It ain't got nothing to do with the methane in the landfill.
Okay.
Obviously, that was part of it, and that's what he explained. It being a prior military base, occupied for almost 100 years, well, not occupied now, but a base, there was a very high potential of other contaminants, maybe, and the phase 1 would pinpoint those for the 3,200, hopefully.
The one for 21,
and that's then you would go into the phase 2, which is narrowed way down on your heavy metals and your other things of that nature.
But if we did that, it would, if we approved to go ahead, we would start construction. It would allow that. This would be more of a campus type scan.
Cover
it wouldn't
us for
affect
the future.
that building. It would affect every building.
Might I suggest something here? That if we go ahead with construction, we're already putting in a vapor barrier that's really designed for moisture, but you can upgrade that vapor barrier to prohibit any gases from coming in, like methane or volatile organic compounds from infiltrating through the slab. So that might be a way to get things moved forward. It wouldn't be that much more expensive to upgrade the vapor barrier, and that's a legitimate way to handle something like that.
Well, that gets the building going on.
Yeah,
but my part 2 to this was we as a board, and I mean, we need to make sure and have it on paper sometime besides just a few core samples that we finally dug out of a filing cabinet today.
Yeah, I'm not saying, you know, I'm not saying instead of, I'm saying this gets the building going.
We have overspent and spent and spent and spent on projects to the point that, okay, we got to do it. We got to grow. We got to move. We got to keep things going. We got to keep them going. But we also need to fill those filing cabinets with something that's got a nice big tab on it that says, hey, we're not endangering our kids out there because of something that was dumped 40 years before any of us in this room were even born. I'm probably speaking out there, but
thank you.
So we have
but
had
you never know.
Mr. Chairman, just to help an old man out here, in the service of simplification and clarity, would it not be better to have a vote on what has already been motioned to remove the wording in the first motion?
We have to do that.
To get done, and then have a separate standalone motion to authorize a phase 1 environmental study to be done. Would it not be more simpler and clearer and understanding to be able to do it that way?
It would be, yeah, and that's the process we have to go through. So if everybody's ready, we will vote on that motion.
You would be voting right now on removing the wording as talked about by Mr.
Removing
Gilly.
contingent upon a good environmental report.
And then, once that's resolved, then you
Go
can
build
have
your
an
building.
amendment to
Then
add
we'll
back
do
any
that.
language you desire.
That is correct.
Not an amendment, a motion.
Well,
Yeah.
Should be.
It'll be a motion. It'll be
a
a
motion,
standalone
a motion, oh,
motion.
you're saying a separate motion to, yes, I
Standalone.
understand.
Separate motion.
Then yes, you are, well, then what you need to do is you need to remove that language. Then you need to have another vote to approve the motion as amended. Then you would come to the step of making a separate issue. So you're I know it's a lot of steps, but that's where you are. To resolve this one thing, you have to
So
vote
right
on
now,
the
we're gonna
amendment,
vote to
then on the amendment.
remove
Yes.
that,
Yes.
and then we'll have to
Approve as
approve
amended.
it.
Okay, so if we did an upgraded vapor barrier, where would that fit?
That's just, I mean, we have notes on that, and we can do a change order with that particular contractor.
Okay, good.
Okay.
So, does everybody understand what we're voting on at this point? We're removing those words. Okay? Mr. Cordell?
Yeah, aye.
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 Chair votes aye. That passes 9-0. So we've removed it. Now we have to accept it.
You have to approve the motion as
As
amended.
Approve the motion as it is now.
Yes.
Okay? We'll need to have a motion.
No.
Will we not have
You
to have,
already
we
have
just,
it.
we can just
Automatically
accept,
falls
we
back.
can accept this.
You have to have an amendment
Okay.
and then a motion.
So now we can vote to accept that.
To accept the amended
Accept the
language.
amended
Yes.
motion. Okay? Mr. Gilly, you're first then.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That passes 9-0. Now,
that right?
now we can go to a new
Now,
motion.
I would like to make a motion to approve a pursuance of a phase 1 environmental study on the grounds of Coffee County Central High School.
Second.
Second.
Okay, so Mr. Gilly made the motion. Who got the second? Mr. Crabtree. Okay.
Crabtree.
Please restate the motion.
Yeah, repeat, yes. Repeat that.
I need to
The
repeat
motion.
it.
If you can do the motion again, let's make sure we get it right.
A motion to approve pursuance of a phase 1 environmental study on the grounds of Coffee County Central High School.
And if that phase 1 comes back with recommendations.
Well, once
Well,
we
we'll
get
do
it,
that,
once we
then
get
we'll,
the phase, yeah,
we can do that.
I'll throw my next one on there.
All right.
So we can do the phase 1 and go from there.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's, you agree, Mr. Crabtree?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Motion's
Any
been
more
made, so-
questions? We've talked
Okay,
about it a
now.
lot, huh?
Well, like I say, I just want to say that let's pull this preliminary phase 1. We probably know everything that it's going to identify. It could probably tie with previous records of the core samples we've had, depending on the depth of them and who done them, whatever. And we might not even have to get into phase 2, but at least we have covered. And I would
bases.
recommend that we put this in a big folder tagged, that we don't lose it, for future generations.
Mr. Shores, I'm happy to come in and go over that report with you and tell you what it means, you know, that's,
The part I was looking for is where it says, no, nothing detected.
yeah,
I saw that.
I'm happy to go over it with you.
All right, so everybody
What are you gonna do if we
understands the
find heavy
motion
metals?
and the
Deal with
second?
it.
Huh?
Go to hell with it.
But don't you think we need to find out?
Yes, sir.
I mean, you know, I'm not even gonna go there.
Nobody's
Not,
disagreeing
not,
with that.
not right now.
Okay, so we've had a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? You understand? Okay, to proceed with phase 1. Mr. Ballard, your vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That passes 9-0. So the project will get started and we will
Good,
proceed
good.
in
Thank you.
getting phase 1. Okay? I think that takes care of our action items. Now it's time for items of discussion, and we have a couple principals here. We would like to let them go first. Mr. Anderson? Nothing? Mr. Parsley? Anything tonight? Yes, we would prefer. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a few things going on this month at Deerfield. But last month we wrapped up the month by celebrating our custodians for National Custodian Appreciation Day. They work really hard and they keep our building very beautiful out there. So we got them cakes and gifts and really showed them our appreciation. And our kindergarten went to Cedarwood Pumpkin Patch, and that wrapped up the month. And for October, we have the 5th grade field trip going to the Carter House on Friday the 13th. And on the 14th, we have our first elementary basketball game. Deerfield plays East Coffee at the middle school at 12 o'clock. And on the 16th, we are having our first quarter academic pep rally to celebrate our students who have made great academics. And also, we're having our first Deerfield family picnic this year. So we're having this kind of like the lunch on the lawn. We're having the families come out and bring coolers of sandwiches and blankets and just have lunch with their children that day. On October 19th, we're having a Not So Scary Literacy Night, so the children can wear their costumes and they have stories read to them, and they will have cocoa and things like that, and then we'll wrap up the evening with a trunk or treat in the parking lot. Our 3rd grade is going to Old Stone Fort, so we're going to utilize some of our resources here. So they're going there, and we have our school-wide field trip that is going to the South Jackson Civic Center and to see a play called Finding Nemo. So that's what we got going on with Deerfield.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'll share a couple of bits of information, and then our ambassadors have some other information. This Thursday, we have an unusual day at the high school. Annually, we administer the ACT retake to our seniors, and that day happens to be this Thursday. So a significant portion of our staff will be administering the ACT to our seniors. We will also be administering the ASVAB test to our sophomore class. Now, because we have to utilize so many staff in testing on those days, we utilize that day for our junior class to either job shadow or to take a college or technical school visit. And so our juniors have plans for Thursday to do one of those things, and we will be administering tests otherwise. So just an interesting day. We do put quite a bit of effort into preparation for the ACT for our students, and a couple of the things that we've been doing lately. Weekly on Wednesdays, we have spent time during advisory with ACT prep for our entire student body, and we've spent about 25 minutes weekly on Wednesdays. We have also been doing lots of bell ringers in our senior math classes and senior English classes to help prepare our seniors. And then tomorrow, we will do a final review with our seniors. It'll be about 45 minutes long, and we've divided our seniors up into halves. And so we will bring about half of our seniors into the theater to do a review for the ACT. And the next period, we will bring the rest of the class in. And so our goal is to have some significant increases in individual ACT scores for our students. Another thing that I thought I would share with you, we've received quite a bit of positive news concerning our marching band lately. They were involved in a competition, I believe it was 2 weekends ago, and it was called the Yellow Jacket Invitational. It's a pretty well-known competition that is in Trousdale County yearly. And they have various classes of bands, and those classes are based upon the size of the band. And so the news that I received concerning our band in that competition is that we placed overall second in our class a couple of weeks ago. They have other categories. Our drum majors placed second, our color guard placed third, and our percussion group in the band placed first. So again, just really positive news from them, and we're excited about the direction that our band is moving in.
Thank you.
Good.
I'll save the rest for our ambassadors.
Thank you, Mr. Parsley. Mr. Anderson, you got anything? Crabtree?
You gotta be happy.
So at Hickerson, we're looking forward to closing out our cross-country season this week. Wednesday is our last cross-country meet at the rec center, and then we start basketball Saturday along with the other elementary schools. Our fall festival is scheduled for October 20th from 5 to 7 p.m. And then I just got word tonight that Hickerson has been invited to the Fair Board dinner to be recognized for our students, our participation in the fair exhibits, because we have an overwhelming amount of entries, and so they're recognizing Hickerson for that. So that's
Thank you. All right, run through the board real quick. Any other additional comments, Mr. Gilly?
I'll wait till last, maybe.
This may be the last. Mr. Cordell? Anything? Anything? Oh, good.
I do.
Go ahead.
I am rather painfully aware that I have most likely upset a lot of people in this county tonight with my decision to pass on a vote. And I don't love that. That's not fun, but I did what felt right to me. I've been thinking about it all week long, and I didn't like voting either way. So that being said, I really love our school systems and our leaders, and I hope that we can come together over the next year as a board, as a community, and maybe be more unanimous in our decisions and move forward and everybody be happy. So, thank you.
The band really is, I mean, they're doing it.
They give a good performance. Really do. All right, with that, we'll move to the committee reports. Was there anything that needs to?
With fall break in the middle of it, there have not been any committee meetings in the last month.
Okay, and our student ambassador, Riley and Ella, who wants to go?
Y'all previously talked about redoing the gym floors, and while I know that it was very necessary, if this arises again, could we be more considerate and intentional of the timing? Because our volleyball district tournament was going on over fall break, and we were struggling to find a time and place to hold practices on the most important week of the year. And also, if we had won one more regular season game, we would have had to hold the first round of the tournament at home, and we wouldn't have had any court to play on. So I was just wondering if we could be more considerate of that next year, if that arises. Our golf team lost in an incredibly hard match over fall break, which unfortunately ended their season. And our volleyball team lost in a very close match on Tuesday to Columbia Central, and it ended our season as well. The cross-country team has a meet this weekend and a few more meets leading up to state. And football plays on Friday at Oakland High School. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's going to be a hard one.
Ouch.
All right. So this week we have started a Pay It Forward movement. Student government has started it. It's called Cookies for Classrooms. And student government has started by buying, I think we're buying 10 or so boxes of cookies. And we decided as a class today what homerooms would first receive them. And then they would receive a little card, and it is a Pay It Forward movement. So then homerooms would be giving cookies to other homerooms and so forth, hoping to spread across the whole school. We also have started perfect attendance incentives and gift baskets with our leftover snacks from the homecoming dance. So today we gave 5 students chips, Rice Krispie treats, candy, awarding them for perfect attendance. And then we also gave gift baskets to the janitors, the cafeteria staff, the admin, the office workers, the SCC, which is the Student Counseling Center, and then the Special Services Office. So we are looking forward to hopefully have more smiles and more positivity across the high school.
Thank y'all. Any questions for our ambassadors? Comments?
No, but I think you need to know, I don't think the board decided that, so. Did we? I mean, we didn't decide on the gymnasium floor being done at that time.
And that's probably only done about every 20 years, correct?
So we're sorry, we didn't know.
Yeah, most years it is simply a scuff and recoat, which is easily accomplished over the
In
summer.
that time frame.
But we are aware of the struggles, and that's why we tried to work with building administration and athletic directors and that kind of thing. If we wanted to get it accomplished, I believe at one time it was thought that we were on the schedule for the summer, but that was not the case apparently, and so the next available option was fall break.
I appreciate her letting us know. That's how you get things done. Keep that frame of mind.
If I can add, and I guess particularly for Ms. Clark, we were literally given a time frame of a certain number of days. One of our athletic directors had those conversations, and there literally were no other options. So it was, do you want it done this school year or not? So it was very unfortunate, and I understand your concern.
Thank you, Mr. Parsons.
Timing is hard. I know Saturday, the oiling crew to seal the parking lots at Raider Academy showed up about an hour and a half before everybody for the parade. Had to find common ground there.
Director's report, Dr. Lawson.
Director's report, first day of class in a new grading period. There's not a whole lot of new stuff to add other than what's already been added by principals and student ambassador. I've asked Mr. Shores to just provide since this was something that was talked about this past spring, I've asked Mr. Shores to give a quick update on the Raider Academy Gymnasium.
And as Ms. Clark said, gyms were premium during fall break. Middle school, I believe, was getting a scuff and coat. Raider Academy was finishing getting painted with the polyurethane being placed over the top of it. And then the high school, of course, going all the way down to the wood. So out of our secondary gyms, they were all being reworked. I do know as far as the Raider Academy, they finished the painting, they finished the coats on the floor. It's sent through this week, curing, and it should be ready to go next week. They still have to put wheels on the bleachers. We want to put new wheels so we don't mess up a new floor. The other thing is it's got to be reattached to the wall. The bleachers do. Otherwise, it's ready to go. There are a few more things that still need to take place, but the gym is just about finished.
Good. Good.
And then last thing I'll add, ESSER update. I will just remind the board that we are in the final year of ESSER 3, the last of the ESSER allotments from the federal government. We are, the money has to be allotted by June 30th and it has to be expended by September 30th. So a year from this meeting right here, we should be able to put ESSER largely to rest before this time, but we are in the final year, and we'll continue to utilize those as we have described previously.
Thank you. Well, with that, we have finished this rather long meeting. I'd like to entertain a motion to. Oh, yes, I didn't see my stuff. Our meeting. Next school board meeting November 13th at 4:30 right here, and there is a work session October the 26th at 4:30 for the board. Okay. Now I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank y'all.